All right, it is 7 p.m. So I would like to welcome everybody to our regular City Council virtual meeting for Monday, May 24th, 2021. And if we could all say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Lanyon. Pratt.
Here. City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Bellinger.
You're on mute, Noah.
Noah Bellinger here, City of Williamston, Ingham County.
Weiss.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County.
Rhines.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Gilroy.
Here, City of Williamston, Ingham County, Michigan.
Smith.
Just so you know, I did receive a message from Councilman Smith that he may be late coming to the meeting. It is very possible that he might not be joining us. He did have another obligation. I did not hear from Brandon. However, I would entertain a motion to excuse absences if anyone would like to make that motion.
Mayor, can I have a question first?
Yes.
I got Kent just called my phone because he's trying to get in to the city council and could not. Kent Hall. So,
into the actual building or logging into this?
Logging into this. He was having, so I don't know who to direct him to Holly or, but he wants to come on a guest because he's on the agenda.
Yeah, because he is an action item for this evening. Holly, can we give him the same login that was in the packet? So Noah, if you would be so kind, maybe
I can take a photo real quick and send it to his phone if we want.
Okay.
If that's
All
okay
right.
to do. Can I do that, Holly? Okay. I will do that as we go through and make the other motions. So cool. Okay.
All right. Back to finishing up our roll call. Again, I did receive a note from Councilman Smith. I see that Councilman Lanning is not here. So again, if anybody wanted to make a motion to excuse absences, I would entertain that.
I'll make a motion to excuse Councilman Lanyon and Councilman Smith. Pratt.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you both. Barb, can you call the roll for that?
Bellinger.
Hang on.
No, you're on mute again, Noah.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Pratt. Pratt.
Yes. Yes. I apologize. My internet.
All right, thank you. Also, we have approval of the agenda for this evening if there are no changes that need to be made.
I have one change. Can you change Kenneth to Kent?
Yes.
I don't know what
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right. Somebody would like to make a motion to approve the agenda with the changes in the spelling for Mr. Hall's name?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with corrections of Kenneth Hall to Kent Hall for action item 1.
Thank you. Do I have support?
Support. Pratt.
Thank you. All right. We have an approved agenda. All right. We have an opportunity for audience participation. Yes.
Need to take roll.
Oh, sorry. Can you?
Yeah, Pratt.
You're on mute, Tom. We're calling roll for the approved agenda.
Yes. Sorry, I wouldn't even unmute.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right, thank you. Did we have anybody join us for audience participation this evening? This would be the opportunity with a maximum 5 minutes per presentation.
No. We did.
All right, thank you, Holly. Moving
Yeah.
on, I'm looking for a motion to approve the city council meeting minutes of May 10th, 2021.
So move, Weiss.
Thank you.
Support Bellinger.
Thank you. Barb, will you call the roll for the approval of the council meeting minutes?
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Noah, did you have an opportunity to review accounts payable?
Yes, Mayor, I did. And I sent an email to Corey and I forwarded it to all you guys. Everything looked fantastic. It was a short list. Nothing really raised any large questions to me, but I also put out to the other council members if they have any questions for Corey at this time.
All right.
And if not, I'll still make the motion to approve check 74335 dated 5/3 of 21 to check 74381 dated 5/14 of 21 and ACH 106 for a total of $52,720.07.
Thank you, Noah. Did anybody have any questions regarding that, or would somebody like to offer up support for that motion?
Councilman Weiss has his hand up.
Yes, go ahead.
First, I'll offer support, then just discussion.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
And I don't know if this is for Scott or Corey, but I noticed the last, we've been getting fuel for the PD from Admiral, but then fuel for DPW from Randy's service station. Just wondered if there'd be a savings if we went with one place for fuel or if there's a reason we're splitting it.
I can take that, Jeff, and Scott can chime in if needed. So about a year ago, right when the pandemic started in 2020, the Pacific Pride out on the south end of town shut down, and we were in a bit of a panic mode to get our fuel coverage covered. And at the time, we made that decision for flexibility's sake. The police had a arrangement worked out with Admiral, and we were able to work with Randy's to get 2 on-site tanks that are, Scott would know the exact size, but we have a diesel and a gas tank that was put on site at DPW. I think in the immediate aftermath of that, we had a question or two come up at a council meeting, and I can't remember exactly, what all came of that, but I think we did put together, some background because there was some concern about having it on site.
Yes, that is correct, Corey. We did ask questions about that.
Yep. In the months since, which has really been about a year, there has been some discussion internally about whether we would have some savings at basically consolidating that to one site. There's a couple things that we have to work through in order to make that happen. One of which are the tanks we have sized appropriately, because the PD generally fills up about twice a day with the vehicles. And so we would have a higher level of turnover in those fuel tanks. And we just have not got that solved yet. But it is something that we've talked about internally, just even in the last probably 6 weeks or so. So happy to answer any follow-ups or take additional questions.
Scott, I have a question. Are we doing diesel and regular gas out at DPW on site, or can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, we have both types of vehicles in our fleet. We have 2 500-gallon tanks. One of them is diesel, one of them is gasoline. And basically, depending on the time of year, it's about a monthly fill up. It ranges from 4 weeks to about 6 or 7 weeks, depends on the time of year and how much usage is going on. But that's about the right size for the DPW fleet. If we were to add the police department into that, in fact, I haven't gotten back with Corey on this. I just had a conversation with our fuel supplier last week. He happened to be in, and it was determined that we would need another 500-gallon tank, and it's probably simplest just to set a third tank and have that dedicated to the police department if the desire was to have it all on site with the city. So we'll continue to have that discussion internally and come up with a conclusion.
Does Randy's offer a discount for that large of a quantity of fuel?
Yeah, we're buying it in bulk, and we don't have to go through the hassle of having the taxes and all that stuff on there already. So we have found it to be a significant savings on the DPW side. And if the police department were to want to go into that, we would probably, find the same thing there. We just have to figure out arrangements for the police getting into the site and all that stuff, because they need it 24/7 basically.
Correct. And we do not get a discount through Admiral, I'm assuming. We pay regular price, correct?
I believe
Corey?
so. I'm not aware of what the full arrangement is there.
Okay.
So, and when we buy our diesel, we buy the off-road diesel because we're allowed to do that with our type of equipment. So it's cheaper too.
Okay.
Yeah, to that question, when we first signed up with Admiral, I believe that there was a method by which we could be reimbursed for any taxes, but I'm not sure where that stands. So, yes, there would be probably some efficiencies gained and some savings to consolidate that. It has been something that our PD has actually asked about, and frankly, they're just waiting on me to get it going.
Okay. If we could have that further discussion with Chief, I know that he is on vacation for a great family occasion. So we wish the Wolf family well. So great question, Councilman Weiss, bringing that forward. And can we get some follow-up on that, Corey, when Chief is back in town?
Yes.
And Mayor and Corey, I'll drop off all the packet with all the receivables in it so that you can use this as part of the research project. So
Thank you.
Fantastic. Was there any other further discussion then for the accounts payable? I believe we have a motion and support. If there's no other discussion, I will go ahead and ask for the roll call, please.
Bellinger,
yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
All right. All right, we will go ahead and start our action items. We have quite a list. So I am looking for a motion for action item A, appointment of Kent Hall to the Planning Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2023, please.
I'll make
You're
an
on.
Yeah, no, before you get going, I sent Kent the sign-on log. Do we know if he logged in yet, Holly?
I don't see
Yes.
him on my screen.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Well, I tried. I sent him.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Noah, for your efforts. I do appreciate it. Dan, were you going to make that motion?
I make a motion to appoint Kent Hall to the Planning Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2023.
Thank you.
Bellinger support.
Thank you. If there's no discussion, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, next action item 8B, consideration of a resolution to adopt the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. And there's a recommended motion in the packet from our city manager.
I'm gonna bring up the extra discussion in here for the water rate increase portion of the budget. I know we need that money on the water and sewer side to continue with the maintenance and everything at the plants. It's not that we don't need the money. We need it over there, but I have a hard time with the rate increase, even though I know we need the money, because at the end of the road, a lot of our residents are still getting poor quality water. So asking them to pay more for a service that they're finding subpar, I have a hard time with. So I'm looking at some of these other options for that to resolve that issue that Corey provided in our packet. I don't know how the rest of council is feeling, but that's where I'm at.
All right, and I see Councilman Weiss has his hand up, so I'll go to Councilman Weiss, and I also see that Councilman Pratt has his hand up, and I will call on him next.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilman Rhines. If there's one thing since I've been on council that I've received complaints about from my neighbors and numerous other people in the city, a lot of people, is our water and sewer rates. I'm not in favor of policy option number A. I don't feel as if water sewer rates should be increased. I just don't see that happen. I agree with Dan that the water quality, while our water is safe, I can't, in all good faith, raise any water sewer rates.
All right, thank you, Councilman Weiss. I would like to recognize that Councilman Lanyon has joined us. So thank you for being with us, Brandon, appreciate that. Councilman Pratt, you had your hand up as well.
Okay, there we go. So mine was kind of a comment that mirrored both Councilman Rhines and Councilman Weiss. I think an increase on the water bill, being that it's already fairly expensive to live in the city and pay the water bill, would be in bad taste. And my question, I guess, would be, there's all these different options, such as cutting the expenditures, which we read through, which seemed like a good idea, either foregoing or forgiving some borrowed money from the past. And then there was some unrestricted cash balance funds that we could use for this year. There's the general fund transfer. My question would be, what's our best long-term solution to not raise the water rates but continue on? Because we don't want to Band-Aid fix it and just not raise them this year and then raise them next year. So what option would we have for a long-term fix to not raise them but continue on successfully with the water and sewer program? I guess my inclination in reading through all this is that it would probably be a difficult sell to the taxpayers if they found out that we have an unrestricted cash balance fund for the water and sewer, yet we're still going to raise the rates.
Thank you, Councilman Pratt. I appreciate that. All great comments in this discussion. I think, Corey, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you. I know that, being on council with Noah and being the longest serving council members to date with this group, this has been a struggle. And
Very much so.
It's not something I want to see happen either. I think that Corey put out some good options for us. So I guess that would be my question as well, to echo what Councilman Pratt said. What would be the best solution long-term out of these options if we did not include that increase?
Thank you. I appreciate the comments and the questions. To answer that question is tough. I don't think anybody here is going to like the answer. So we just applied about a month ago for a $4.8 million transformational grant for our water system. If that grant comes through, it will significantly help us. I think it will address the water quality issues that are at the end of the pipes with these old cast iron water mains. That's really what's needed to address some of these concerns. About 10 years ago, the city addressed the concerns at the source point with the development of the water treatment plant, as well as the rehabilitation of, I think, just about all of our wells. And that took a significant amount of debt to issue, which we're paying for now for 40 years through our water and sewer rates, or our water rates. And so in order to really come up with a long-term plan, and I say this without trying to sound too, wonky and analytical, but when you plug that capital improvement program into our rate study, it kicks back a gigantic rate increase, in the magnitude of 30%, in order to complete that type of project with funds from our system. And so that is correct to say that none of these options are necessarily more than a temporary Band-Aid, in hopes that this grant that we've made the top 10 for, comes through and benefits us with some federal dollars. So, of these options, I think that it's option C, which is basically we have control of this debt that the water fund got from the general fund. Cities do this on occasion. They call it an advance. And we control 100% the terms of repayment on that. And so I think that if that was forgiven, it impacts the general fund, but the general fund isn't counting on that revenue to deliver services. It's basically repaying basically a loan from our fund balance. And so that has 3 years remaining on the repayment. So when you look at it that way, it's not a 1-year Band-Aid. If it was forgiven, it would help us for a couple years. But I do note in there that we're presently planning for the North Putnam Street utilities, which we're going to talk a little bit more about on the agenda later. And so that payment of $25,000 a year, one of the things that we are trying to do is that when a debt payment falls off, since we're already counting that in our budget, that we basically plug that in with a new project. And so that 2023 North Putnam is what was envisioned. And I wanted to point that out just so council's aware that if we forgive that advance from the general fund, it might buy us 2 to 3 years, but it's not a savings forever as far as our planning goes. So I think absent, a larger, update of the rate study that incorporates all of the, planned capital improvements that are outlined, primarily the ones that we are trying to pursue grant funding for, that really is the long-term fix, is to, develop a funding plan, and you would try to sell the residents that, yes, it's going to have this impact on rates, but we're going to ultimately improve, up to 6 different areas of town that sort of has a wider impact than just on those streets. I think that's the selling point. So none of these options offer that solution in the short term. They merely address, this 1-year upcoming budget, while understanding option C would have future year impacts, but it's just a more limited number of years.
Thank you, Corey. Tom, you have your hand up again. Thank you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Corey, for that explanation. I have kind of a 2-part question. First off, you mentioned this big grant that we applied for, and I'm curious if we have any idea as to how long it would be before we found out any conclusion of that process. And I apologize for a 2-part question, but my second part would be, if we forgave some old debt to not increase the water bill, would it be possible to choose to not put the water system back into debt in 2 or 3 years to keep the water bill low, even if we had to scale back on some future planned projects?
Thank you, Tom.
Yep. So the first question, that federal grant, it will be discussed as part of the federal appropriations process, which we are told will happen sometime between October and February. So we'll know probably within the next 9 months if that's going to go forward. And just as a reminder, we submitted that back in April. They had 58 applications, and they were going to select 10 to move forward. So we're in that 10, and from here, it's likely they're going to pick 2 to 3 to fund. So it is not, the odds are not in our favor necessarily, but I think it shows, hopefully the community that, we are trying to pursue every avenue to keep this off of the ratepayers, and basically bringing some of their other tax dollars back to town. For number 2, if we forgave that debt and then not increase the water bill, that's certainly a policy option. I think that, you know, the push and pull that we'll have as we plan for the next couple of years is if we don't use that money, for example, on the 2023 North Putnam project, you know, how will we fund it? And if we're not doing that, then we're not making those gradual improvements that help those neighborhood areas that you know, really need these cast iron water mains to be replaced. And so that's not, as I'm sitting here right now, that wouldn't be my recommendation. If council were to ask what are other ways to fund that, we would certainly combine our heads and try to answer that question. But you know, that ultimately would be a policy decision of council whether or not to, you know, bond for a project.
Thank you, Corey. All right, council members, we do have a motion before us. We have 5 different options. We've had really good questions. Are there any other questions for Corey before I ask for a council member to make a motion on this? We do, and just so for the viewers out there, with those 5 options, I'll just go through them somewhat quickly. There's A is pass the budget resolution as proposed with a 3% water increase. Council would then see a rate setting resolution in June. Option B is amend the budget resolution to increase general fund expenditures by $31,250 to account for a direct transfer to the water fund and do not proceed with a rate increase. Option C, pass the budget resolution as drafted and move to have staff bring forward a separate resolution modifying the terms of the 2015 advance from the general fund to forgive or postpone the water fund's 2021-22 payment and do not proceed with a water rate increase. Option D, amend the budget resolution to decrease water fund revenue by $31,250 to reflect no rate increase and utilize water fund cash balance to make up the difference between revenue and expenditures in the 2021-22 budget or fiscal year and do not proceed with the water rate increase. And lastly, option E is to table the budget resolution until June 14th, pending further consideration and discussion.
I'm going to say I'm in favor of option C, which is we forgive the water fund's debt to the general fund that gets us a couple of years. It allows us to see what happens with this large grant that we've made the top 10 for, and I think that's the best option that we have before us right now.
Thank you, Councilman Rhines. Do I have support for Councilman Rhines' motion of option C? And then we can have further discussion or questions.
Support, Pratt.
Thank you. The one thing I want to make sure that we, I want to put out there for our viewing audiences is that this has been the most transparent topic I think that we have had with our city council, with the discussions with our staff. It is a very, very difficult decision that we have to make when it's regarding ratepayers and increases, and it's not something that we want to do. We have worked very long and hard about different options that we could put forward. I do have faith in the submission of our grant. I hope that the grant board would look at that at the federal level, and we would be very fortunate to have that come through for us. But being this transparent, we know what lies ahead of us if we do not get that grant option, and so some other hard decisions will need to be made down the road. So with that being said, we have a motion, we have support. I will open it up for any other questions or discussions before I call for the roll on this.
Discussion point, Mayor?
Yes.
I think we should also let the community know that, if you do a 3% increase on the ready to serve, your typical bill is going to go from $333.07 for 6,000 gallons to $334.06. And if you look at all the other things, you're basically asking for $1.71 per 6,000 gallons. So, is the community willing to do that, on a 6,000 gallon, $1.71 a month billing increase to help put off these other issues that we're trying to fix?
Thank you for bringing that forward, Councilman Bellinger. I think in this past year, there's been a lot of families that have struggled with COVID. I think that, we've done our part by not performing shutoffs. Well, actually, it was mandated that we couldn't shut off utilities at a particular time, but we did, we did not charge late fees. So, it's been a difficult year for all of us. And while a small amount, $1.71, monthly, it does add up. I mean, it is important to point that out. So, and it's, unfortunately, we are the council that has to make this decision. It's something that does not go out to vote to our residents. So it's a lot of weight to bear. So we do have a motion and support. So if there's no other discussion or questions, I'm going to go ahead and ask Barb to call the roll on this. And I'm not seeing any hands up. So Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Barb, we do have Councilman Lanning here, and I did
I'm sorry.
Lanyon.
Yes.
Thank you, Barb. I
Sorry.
appreciate it. Corey, thank you so much for the hard work on this, for the, giving us all of the options available. And I hope that, we're doing the right thing in anticipation of that grant coming forward. I know it's going to be a long waiting period, but I do appreciate, all of the work that you put into this for us so that we can make put these votes forward. Next action item is our Zimmer Road Lift Station SCADA panel rebuild. And so Scott, I will go ahead and, Scott, I will go ahead and ask you to give us some information on that, please.
All right, there is a detailed memo in your council packet and their quotation from RS Technical. We talked about this item back when we were doing budget session workshop, and in our current fiscal year, we had designated money to spend at Mechanic Street Lift Station. And over the course of the year, we've determined a couple different things. The work that's left to be done at Mechanic there's some pretty big complexities when it comes to some things that need to be bid, and as we were getting some of the estimates in. And then the other thing is responding to the most urgent need in the system. The most urgent need in the system is preventing backups and getting alarm indications when we have problems at certain lift stations. And the Zimmer Road lift station does not have the same capabilities that the rest of our stations do. It happens to be the one that's out in the township serving primarily the township residents are customers of ours. So they are included in the whole customer base, and they pay the same as everybody else. And the Zimmer Road lift station had turned over per an agreement to the city a number of years ago. So it is our obligation to do the work at the station as opposed to asking the township to do it. It's paid for by the rates, paid for by the ratepayers' money. The station has a phone line that we don't even know when it goes down. So we have had several occasions that the phone line's gone down. The auto dialer that's in there is an antiquated system from over 30 years ago. The circuit board fried on that. It's so part of it doesn't work anymore for the float control in the as far as telling the pumps when to go on and off as well. So there's a number of things that have occurred with this, and what we're doing is we had planned on doing a major reconstruction of this lift station. It's at the end of its service life. We can add this part of the automation in a separate panel, control panel that's in a stainless steel enclosure. When it comes time to rebuild the rest of the station, we would set this aside, do that other work, and then basically place this back in. We looked at an option of rebuilding the existing panels that were there, but then we were concerned that a lot of that work would be wasted because the entire panel would have to be redone. We also looked at doing all of the electrical controls, and that price was above $90,000. So that didn't make any sense either. What we've brought forward to you is what we believe is the most cost-effective, but important answer to what the problem is. We're not asking for doing the flow meter right now. That's something that we can do a little bit later. It's not as critical that we know the flows that are going through the station. That we can right now. We just make do with knowing how long the pumps run and that type of thing. So this fits exactly in the budget that we've got. I guess at this point, are there any questions?
Any questions from anyone? Raise hands, or I'm looking for a motion for this. Scott, thank you so much for putting together a very detailed memo for us. You always spell everything out very thoroughly, so we have good information, and I appreciate that.
I'll make the motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Make a motion for the approval of the rebuild of level controls and SCADA panel at Zimmer Road Lift Station, amount not to exceed $35,500 from RS Technical Services Incorporated, Lowell, Michigan.
Thank you.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you both. If there's no further discussion or any questions for Scott on this, I will go ahead and ask Barb to call the roll, please.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Action item 8D is the MDOT Category B grant application resolution. And Corey, you put together a nice memo for us. I'll go ahead and turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we alluded to this program during the April budget work session as we were talking about our general fund balance and the fact that we're sitting on a healthy fund balance in the general fund. This grant is an opportunity for us to get some leveraged funding for our local street system. And this program is specific to roads that only need what's called capital preventative maintenance. So as an example, a road that is considered a 1 or a 2, a 3 in a Paiser rating, which is our worst roads in town, those are not eligible because they require basically a total reconstruction or a crush and shape type process. So this is really about extending the life of roads that haven't gone over the edge yet, and as far as their condition. And so I worked with Scott on this application. We went through our Paiser ratings and actually did some surface driving of the roads as well, and then looked at the guidance from the state on what is considered an eligible street. And we came up with the list that's included in the memo and the resolution. If you drive these roads, you're going to see a lot of crack sealing on these roads. You might see a fair amount of potholes that have been filled with cold patch. But you probably wouldn't see like what they call alligator cracking, where it's, it kind of looks like the scales of an alligator as you drive down the road. You probably wouldn't see any sort of major rutting on these streets. And so, to the naked eye, it's a road that is drivable. And I think the city's, preventative efforts with crack sealing help that. But it's at a point in its life cycle where it could benefit from that is generally expected to extend the life of. Sorry, it said my internet was unstable. If I need anything left, but it's expected to extend the life of the road. I think MDOT's guidance says 5 to 7 years. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer than that. What we put forward is an application that maximizes our eligible streets. I should note that we also focused on streets that do not have underground utility issues because there's not right now a funding source to deal with all the water and sewer on those streets. So you'll notice that these are some streets that have maybe been around 20 years or so, or they're in older parts of the neighborhood where the utilities are not necessarily needed for replacement. And so the memo lays out our request, and that is to apply for a 2-inch mill and pave, knowing the state will only match funds for 1.5 inches. And and the reason for that, in talking with Scott, is we think a 2-inch is going to offer a better deal for the city in the long run. And so the match is proposed to be a little bit more than 50% in order to maximize that. And that is proposed to come out of our general fund balance in the goal of trying to utilize that fund balance to leverage additional money to bring into the city, which has kind of been a theme of the last month or so as we talk about opportunities. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and Scott's here as far as specifics on streets and mill and paving.
Great. Council members, if you could raise your hand so that I could call on you if you have questions. If I don't see any hands raised, then I'll go ahead and ask for that motion to be made. I am not seeing any hands raised. So with that, I will go ahead and ask for a motion to move this forward.
I can make the motion
Thank you, Tom.
to recommend to approve the MDOT Transportation Alternatives Program grant agreement and DTE Force account agreements for the boardwalk replacement project.
Oh, Tom?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
Thank you for recognizing that.
I
We'll give you a
lost my
minute to
place.
reset.
I gotta find it again, I'm sorry. I've
Page
lost it.
8.
Somebody else
It's
wants to
page
jump in.
8D, page 1. I'll make the motion then.
Yeah, sure.
This Bellinger, motion to approve the resolution to establish a request for funding, designate an agent, attest to the existence of funds, and commit to implementing a maintenance program for resurfacing the local streets in the city of Williamston, funded by the Transportation and Economic Development Fund Category B program.
Thank you, Noah. I appreciate that. Do I have support?
Second, Pratt.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion or questions, I will go ahead and ask Barb to call the roll, please.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Pratt.
Yeah.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. Okay, all right, thank you. Action item 8E is our MDOT Transportation Alternatives Program Grant Agreement. Corey, back to you for this one.
Thank you, Mayor. The next two items go hand in hand, so I'll just talk about them both. So we officially received our contract from MDOT as well as the bids on the boardwalk replacement project. This, along with our construction engineering agreement, that's the next item, both went to DDA last week for approval and recommendation to council as our second step in the process. And so if you read through the memo, our bids came in a little high, and we included a copy of the bid forms if anybody wanted to see the detail, along with the justification that was required by MDOT. Anytime bids are over 10%, MDOT wants a detailed rundown of the reasoning why. And ours was, I think, 10 point something percent. Our low bid was 10 point something percent over the engineer's estimate. Probably the biggest item that stood out to us was the HMA costs for the asphalt path. They also had a slightly higher rate on the grading that's going to be done around the riverbank. And so at this point, MDOT has accepted that justification. They are preparing to award the agreement, award the low bidder the work pending our approval of the grant agreement. And so the grant agreement is included for approval. And then following that, and I'm happy to take questions on that too, We have our construction engineering services agreement. That would be our next action item. And that is to provide the construction admin and staking inspection for the project through the MDOT process, this summer.
All right. Questions for Corey? If no questions, then I'm looking for a motion to move this item forward.
Move to recommend to approve the MDOT Transportation Alternatives Program Grant Agreement and DTE Force Account Agreements for the Boardwalk Replacement Project, Lanyon.
Thank you.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you both. If there's no other discussion for this or questions, I'll go ahead and ask Barb for the roll call, please.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Action item 8F is the Boardwalk Replacement Construction Engineering Agreement. And Corey, you've got a memo in here for this, so it's you again.
Oh, and I just mentioned this. So we worked with Spicer Group on the design process. Now that we are entering the construction phase, we have a construction engineering agreement with Spicer. We've proposed to split this contract 3 ways. One from the DDA, one from the Parks Department in the General Fund, and one from the Sidewalks Department in the Major Streets Fund. That is eligible because we are constructing a sidewalk in the right-of-way along North Putnam Street. And so we are requesting a motion to approve, and this will provide basically from start to finish all the construction engineering services, as well as the coordination with MDOT. When you have an MDOT grant, there are typically additional requirements as far as the ongoing inspection of the project, as well as they call it their local agency program, LAP, process that's involved. And so we've got a proposal from Spicer to provide that for the project this summer.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Corey on this? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to move this forward.
Make a motion to recommend entering into an agreement with Spicer Group to provide construction engineering, inspection, staking, and material testing services for the Boardwalk Replacement Project totaling $58,202.50 with funding in the amount of $29,202.50 from the DDA fund, $22,895.50 from the Parks Department in the General Fund, and $6,104.50 from the Sidewalks Department in the Major Streets Fund. Rhines.
Thank you. Do I have support?
Support, Weiss.
Thank you. If there's no questions or discussion, I will go ahead and ask Barb for the roll, please.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 8G is Ingham County American Rescue Plan infrastructure requests. Corey, again, a great memo, so I'll turn right over to you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everybody's patience tonight with our long agenda. So this is our last grant to talk about this evening. I think we've talked about the fact that this was coming, just so everybody in the public knows, as part of the American Rescue Plan that was passed by the federal government. Counties, cities, villages, townships are receiving an allocation of that. And Ingham County is set to receive, according to estimates, about $57 million. There's been discussion at the county board level on where and what those funds will be applied to. And I can tell you from chats with the county controller as well as Commissioner Schaefer, there is a desire to try to use some of that funding to help out the locals with infrastructure projects. Under the act, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure are eligible expenses. And so as a county typically doesn't run a water or sewer system. And so therefore they wouldn't be able to spend money on that. Now, of that 57 million, I don't think there's been any decisions made yet on exactly how much funding will be available for this program. But you can see on the county letterhead, they're asking for formal requests. And so we discussed what to come forward with. We wanted to bring something that was reasonable and that we had some sense of cost estimates on. And so, there's probably some items in our water reliability study and our wastewater planning that, could be multi-million dollar, which we felt like of the pot that's going to be available, that's probably just not realistic. And so we instead focused on one project that is coming up that we've talked about here tonight, the North Putnam Street road project, which includes the water and sewer. And so we put forth some estimated numbers. These are not official. And in fact, I think after publication, they're probably a little high. But we included design, service, and engineering, or construction engineering, as well as the construction. And you'll see in both requests that we've plugged in as a match what we've already have committed for either design on the North Putnam or for the Zimmer Road project, the SCADA stuff that was just approved. And so we'll see what kind of feedback we get from the county. My understanding is that this is sort of a initial information gathering step to find out what kind of needs exist. And for us, these were the two most immediate that we had a sense of urgency to, but also that we knew we could spend the money in the timeline that the feds are going to allow. And so I talked a little bit about North Putnam Street on the Zimmer Road lift station. Scott talked about that already tonight. So the number in there is for the complete rebuild. And I do want to note that that number has not been vetted through engineering or anything like that. It is simply a best guess based on what we think we have to do over there. And then we bumped it a little bit just to be on the safe side. So these numbers are a little bit fluid at this point. But certainly if funded, we're talking, $1.3 million or so. Again, I can't say for certain what the county's going to allocate toward this, but we feel like this is, not an unreasonable, crazy request coming in with like a $10 million request. So we're looking for a motion of support so that the county's aware that this has the support of City Council. And if so, we will get this submitted by the June 1st deadline.
Excellent. Thank you. Questions for Corey regarding this item?
Just a quick question from me, Corey. When you go all the way down, I'm not sure how far Bismarck is down, but aren't there a couple township residences that sort of carve into that area down there at that street of North Putnam?
Good question. I am not sure right offhand if the water, I guess I'm going to ask Scott, if the water main project is to end at Bismarck, is that going to hit any township residents?
It will not.
Okay, because there's that little cutout. I remember there's a couple houses there that sort of reach
Correct.
out. And then we'd have to reach out to Wanda and the township to see if they wanted to do any upgrades with that, or?
No, actually, with the project in 2011, when we redid the water main on Bismarck, we ran a 6-inch water main up and caught those customers in the township at that point in time. Now, our project on North Putnam is kind of bounded by where our control of North Putnam ends, and the county takes care of the road surface north of Bismarck. So our North Putnam project kind of stops right there.
Okay.
So our sanitary sewer is not being replaced north of Bismarck, but we're planning for allowing a future upgrade if it comes in the future.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
All right. If there's no other further questions, then I'm looking for somebody to make a motion for this.
I'll make a motion to authorize submission of infrastructure funding request to Ingham County's American Rescue Plan infrastructure partnership request for the North Putnam Street water and sewer mains and the Zimmer Road lift station rebuild as outlined on the attached request forms. Pratt.
Thank you. Do I have support?
Support Bellinger.
Thank you both. If there's no other questions or hands raised, I will ask Barb to call the roll, please.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Pratt.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That concludes all the action items for this evening on the agenda. Moving down the agenda to discussion items, we do not have any.
Here, Gilroy.
Yes.
There is an 8H.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. The 8H, the WTP and Wells temperature sensing alarms and PLC upgrades. And this is Scott.
Yes.
Sorry about that, Scott. I didn't mean to forget about your last one.
It's a long agenda. Yeah. Corey and I put a lot of work into this. The issue is when the work was done 10 years ago with the water treatment plant and the wells, it was kind of unknown at that time that we would have issues with having to monitor air temperature in some of the spaces. There is not gas service out there, natural gas service. So we have electric heaters in many of the spaces. That's at the water treatment plant. That's at all of the, 4 of the 5 wells. And what I have a problem with is in the wintertime, those spaces can get cold sometimes, and we're concerned about freezing. We have to put extra space heaters in. Sometimes they're way out in the open field, so the wind is really blowing, and those small buildings struggle a little bit sometimes. There is temperature sensing that we would also put in the water tower, where if you recall a few years ago we had problems with some freezing over there, and that has an electric space heater type of thing in that room as well. And then more importantly for health and safety, not just from damage to equipment from freezing, because if you freeze these pipes, they can burst and we have a major problem on our hands at that point. I will get an alarm that there is the temperature is unknown, but the system believes that it's cold. So I have to send staff in. With this type of monitoring, we'll know exactly when I get that call at 3 in the morning, okay, is it 42 degrees and I can wait to have staff go in and take care of it first thing in the morning, or are we really in a freezing situation and something serious and I've got to mobilize forces immediately in the wee hours of the morning. The other big issue that happens is we've discovered that these heaters can stick on their thermostats when they malfunction, can also stay on. The chlorine room is a specific problem. If that heater sticks on, the temperature can go high enough that it would actually start melting the fusible plugs that are in the chlorine cylinders, thus giving a release of chlorine gas, which gets vented outside, which would then cause us to have to evacuate parts of town, which wouldn't be a very good thing for us to deal with. And when I was talking over this issue of the cold with our SCADA person, Nate, he said, actually, I need to make you aware, there's 3 locations in the state of Michigan in the last, I don't know what it was, 7 years or something like that, that this actually has happened at. And so it wasn't just it could happen. It actually has happened in other locations. That elevated this to a pretty important issue. And so the temperature sensing, we would get not just the alarm that the temperature's out of whack, we would also know exactly how warm it is. And we have been experiencing some problems with these types of heaters with their thermostats malfunctioning in several locations on and off through time. If we had consumers out there with natural gas, we would have natural gas heat in all these locations, and it's a little more reliable. We just unfortunately don't have that. So in looking at how we can do that, there is money available in the fiscal year budget this year to get this done. And I guess I'll leave it at that. If you've got questions, I can get into more detail.
All right. Questions, Dan?
So is this something that, say we approve it tonight, do we think that the work on this will be completed before next winter?
Yes, work will be completed before next winter. In fact, they'll be wrapping everything up this summer.
Okay, good.
Great. Thank you, Dan, for that question. Any other questions or comments or discussion for this last item? And if not, I'm looking for that motion to move it forward.
I make a motion recommending approval of the addition of temperature sensing alarms and upgrades to PLC SCADA in critical parts of the water system in the amount not to exceed $22,000 from RS Technical Services, Inc. of Lowell, Michigan. Rhines.
Thank you.
Bellinger, support.
Thank you. If there's-
Before you vote, just want to make one note.
Yes.
I forgot to mention that the vast majority of the funds would be coming from the bond that we have to spend the money on before the end of this current fiscal year. That was from the Middle Street project.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that additional information, Scott. I appreciate it. If there's no questions, I'm looking for that roll call then. We have support or a motion and a support on the table.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Lanyon,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right. As I said earlier, before I skipped over that last agenda item, for discussion items, we did not have anything on this agenda. Correspondence received and information only was the DTE electric notice of public hearing. So I will move into item 11, which is our department head reports. And Corey, we have your city manager report. Do you have anything to add to that?
I have nothing further this evening. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Corey regarding his report? Okay. I did actually have an opportunity to meet with Chief earlier this week. As I mentioned before, he is on vacation for a family event. And so he did share with me that he has nothing to report. They are still actively looking to fill a position. And when he is back and joins us at next council meeting, I'm sure he'll have an update for that. So everything is going as well as can be in the city. No major incidences to share. So we'll see him next time at our June meeting. Moving along, subcommittee reports. Does anyone have anything they would like to share from any of their boards that they sit on? You can raise your hand and I can call on you. All right, I'm not seeing any hands raised. We have another opportunity for audience participation. Holly, did we have anyone join us?
No, we did not.
All right. Moving along then, we have an opportunity for council member comments. So I will start with Brandon Lanyon.
Nothing exciting. For the record, I am in the city of Williamston, in County, Michigan. But no, I have nothing else. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jeff Weiss.
I have nothing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tom Pratt.
I'm getting the sign my internet that's unstable, so I apologize if I break up here. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank Corey and all the city staff for putting so much thought and consideration into especially the water bill situation and discussion to come up with alternative options. Much appreciated.
All right, thank you. Dan Rhines.
Just a quick Jubilee update real quick while we're here. We're hoping that in the next couple days that our event calendar will launch on our website. We've got a festival website up and running for the first time, but our full event calendar has not hasn't been up on it yet, and that should be up in the next 2 or 3 days. So as soon as that's up, you'll be able to get a look at what we have planned, and we're still planning on putting a few more things on there. One cool thing we're working on right now is an alumni band to march in the parade. So if you know anybody that was in the school bands and would be interested in something like that, we're telling them to check out the Facebook page. There's going to be something going up on that hopefully tonight. So, but it's exciting. We got a lot of cool things planned.
Great, thanks for that update. What is the festival website, if you don't mind sharing it for our viewing audience?
RedCedarJubilee.com.
All right, great, thank you. Appreciate it. Noah.
Just a couple quick updates. Thank you for everybody doing all the research. We made some very tough decisions tonight and appreciate all the work that went into it. And also the Kiwanis Club is still sponsoring Flags Over Williamston. And at the present time, we have 50 people registered that have gotten flags. So we're still looking for more. We went and had a work session this weekend and put a bunch of new flags together. So we're looking forward to that. If anybody wants to reach out to the Kiwanis Club for Flags Over Williamston.
Great. Thank you, Noah. My comments, we're into the summer months. School is going to be winding down quickly for those students that have been face-to-face. So just be aware of that. As you're driving through town or at the parks. I just want to say thank you to Dan and the whole Jubilee Committee for bringing this back this year. It is very highly anticipated, I think, especially with a lot of the different things you guys have been posting on social media. So that's exciting. And my final comments are to city staff. Thank you so much for your hard work. This was a really long agenda. A lot of information had to be gathered to bring forward to us so that we could vote on it. Anytime water and sewer comes on the agenda, we know it's going to be a delicate conversation that we have. And we always want to try to do what's best for the city, but for our residents and try to find a happy medium. And it's tough, but I know that these votes aren't made lightly. So I appreciate council taking the time to, get this out there, talk about it. And we'll just keep moving forward, hope for the best with that grant. And I know it's a long waiting process, but, hopefully we'll see something favorable. And that would be it for me. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Noah?
Yeah, just one quick question. Kent Hall just reached out to me and said, sorry, he couldn't get in. Yeah. I'm going to call him and tell him the results after.
Okay,
I said,
great.
Please call him. So I'll let him know what's going on. So.
Thank you. I'll text him as well because he did call me while I was trying to get logged in, and I did not mean to ignore him, but I knew that he would probably reach out to somebody else. So thank you for being that conduit, Noah.
Thanks.
So with that, again, thank you, staff. Thank you, council members. Appreciate your time this evening. And thank you, Tim, for being here. You didn't get to chime in on anything, but we always appreciate having our city attorney here as well. And with that, I will go ahead and call to adjourn our meeting this evening at 8:08 p.m. Thank you, everybody, so much. Have a great evening.